In part one, we told you the story of a son brutally murdered and a father accused of plotting his murder. But the story didn't end in court. It took an even darker turn. Just 7 days after his release from prison, Stephen Wangondu himself was gone, dying suddenly at a Nyeri hospital where one of his lovers worked. He had lost his speech, and before he could ever return home, he was dead. His passing raised more questions than answers. Why was his death never investigated? Why was an autopsy opposed by those closest to him? And why, soon after, did a disputed will and codicil suddenly appear, allegedly written by him, dividing his vast estate? Now in part two, To Kill a Son, the mystery deepens. A family torn apart not just by murder, but by suspicion, secrecy, and a fight over wealth that continues to this day. This is Murder Tapes. Welcome to the program. I'm Brian Obuya. On the morning of January 1st, 2021, Daniel Mwangi was brutally killed by Eddie Karaoke and Raphael Washira, contract murderers who were hired by James Mahinda. Mahinda was the driver to Mwangi's father. Although it has never been proven, it was alleged before the Nyeri court that Mahinda, being a mere driver, he had been instructed by Daniel's own father to find a way of taking him out. That this narrative has never been proven with any hard evidence, it has always remained an allegation, and a very bad one at that. In the early days of the probe, Daniel's father was arrested in connection with the murder. However, there seemed to be no connection between him and the murder, apart from James, the driver, saying it was the old man who had instructed him. A few things have never been in doubt. One is that Dan was killed and that Mahinda admitted to hiring these men, and that these men admitted to having been hired and further admitted to killing the father of two. Also not in doubt is that Stephen Wangondu and his last-born child were people on a warpath. After the arrest of Stephen Wangondu on February 20th, 2021, it would take 2 months for the father of 7 to be released pending the hearing of the case. That release was secured through bond in a parcel of land belonging to Paul Courier. The land, court records indicate, was registered as Land Registration Nyeri Mweiga 1401. It was valued at 3.2 million Kenya shillings. But the first part of the conspiracy, the family says, began when Wangondu's advocate, Joseph Mahugu Mbarire, began collecting monies in the name of cash bail to enable the release of the old man from prison. Several phone call recordings have been availed to the murder tapes seeking to validate that claim.
But interestingly, when the dust settled, my dad has passed on, we come to realize that no cash bail was required. So this was just a con game. So actually, we were just conned to raise money.
Elijah says that he personally contributed 750,000 following the advice from advocate Joseph Mahugo Mbarire. While remanded at the Nyeri Maximum Prison, which you might know as Kingongo Prison, it is reported that Stephen Wangondu fell ill and that his health deteriorated over time. Phone calls between him and his sons make this allegation possibly true. Wangondu sounds frail and weak.
Okay. Why could it work on over the period to help with true. Don't regret that. I cannot regret. Don't. For your sake. Don't. I got a D. I've already thrown a red drive. Yes. Between me and that group. On that woman and go. On a very major chair.
Wangondu wrote to the DCI asking for comprehensive investigations into Mwangi's death. In his letter, Wangondu said his arrest and connection with his son's death had everything to do with his properties.
I write to invoke your vast powers as conferred by the laws of Kenya by formally submitting for your investigation this complaint about the circumstances revolving around the investigations of the murder of Daniel Mwangi, who is my son. The crux of my complaint is that on 1st January 2021, my son was murdered and his body was found at Waindega, Mwega in Kieni West Sub-County. This matter was initially taken up by Kiawara DCIO following a police report at Mwega police station, but strangely landed in the hands of Nyeri DCIO. My son's death was preceded by exchange of messages between him via his mobile phone and family members of his wife, Miss Frida. I am privy to the said messages in my capacity as a father who consistently impressed upon my son the need to live harmoniously with his wife. Whereas an objective bystander would expect that my son's wife ought to have been investigated and probably charged in a court of law should the evidence demand so, almost 3 months down the line, she continues to walk freely and I continue to be remanded over matters I have no knowledge about whatsoever. For avoidance of doubt, my son's wife has, since the demise of Mr. Mwangi, left her residence and my residence as well, and only shows up when she has intelligence from the police. E.g., a day before my arrest, she was within my property and made it known to all and sundry that I would be arrested the following day. True to her word, I was arrested on the 20th of February 2021. I therefore need to unravel the mystery surrounding the following matters. Is it possible that my son's wife was involved in his death in any manner and is subsequently enjoying protection from unknown people? Noting that I am aware that my area MP, Honorable Kanini Kega, has been seen within Mwega Township where there were organized protests over the subject killing, and it is not the first time that Honorable Kanini's hand has been seen in matters affecting my person, is it possible that he is involved in the underlying issues in any manner?
But it is the details that follow between the 18th of April and the 7th of May 2021 when he dies that cast doubt on what happened to Stephen Wangondu, leaving the death of the man of many families a subject of speculation and suspicion. It is said that during his stay at the Nyeri Maximum Prison, Stephen Wangondo, the 74-year-old murder suspect, was in and out of hospital for some time, though Murder Tapes has not independently seen records of his admissions. But on 21st of April through to the 23rd of the same month in 2021, those are 2 days, court records show Stephen Wangondo was somewhere no one has explained to this date. The Nyeri Maximum Prison said he was at the Mount Kenya Hospital. Mount Kenya Hospital says he was never there. So where was Stephen Kinini Wangondo? And why is it that after that incident, the man could no longer talk and walk? Upon the death of Stephen Wangondo, speculations began to emerge on whether he had died or not. Others said he had flown to Nigeria. Others said he was just hiding to run away from a pending jail term. In Mwega, Nyeri County, Wangondo lived such a mysterious life of speculation and was a man feared and envied by many because of what others said were his unscrupulous ways of attaining his multi-million shilling wealth. He was no stranger to controversies in court. He had been sued and he had sued from time to time. The people in Nyeri could not believe that Wangondo was dead. Others said he could not die, at least not like that. Attempting to ascertain his death, because these speculations were so loud, Murder Tapes has independently acquired a death certificate from the Registrar of Births and Deaths and a burial permit from the hospital that recorded his death. Murder Tapes has satisfied itself that Stephen Wangondo is dead. Now what is left of the man is controversy. After his death at the Outspan Hospital on the 7th day of May 2021, his first and second son have told the court in Nyeri how a post-mortem examination on the body of their father was vehemently discouraged by close family members.
Please, post-mortem. Let him just be done the post-mortem. Maudama amacho na madire public. Totigwe tigera ogwo, totigwe tigera court. Kiadu magoka mari igishio magoka. No gutire mathiko magwikwo. Eke mutheko post-mortem. We have suffered enough for munyi. It is wrong time. Tondu riu ri ona ithe ni tureikira at least. We don't know what would happen to us, Eke post-mortem. Yes, he was murdered. And the people who murdered him are within the family. I have reasons to believe that because they are the ones who are most opposed to the post-mortem. Working out at Span and my late dad's father, brother, real brother, very much against the post-mortem for reasons best known to them. Maybe you'll ask them when you have the opportunity.
With that, Wangondo died without there having been a clear cause of death of the man who lived and died in controversy. And as we cover this story, Murder Tapes must warn itself that this matter is before court and thus comments about it could as well be subjudicial. But Murder Tapes is alive to the fact that there is no contest on whether Wangondo died or not. And thus, as Murder Tapes takes a look at this death certificate, we see the cause of death for Stephen Wangondo is recorded as cardiopulmonary arrest, sepsis, severe pneumonia, and acute kidney injury. Murder Tapes can only wonder how these causes of death were determined without an autopsy. And then there is the purported will of Stephen Wangondo that is forming the basis of a tough legal battle in the High Court at Nyeri. The will, dated 5th of October 2020, was drafted by Advocate Joseph Mahugu Mbarire. It was purportedly witnessed by Joel Ondieki, who is a Nairobi-based advocate, and Charles Mushemi Karweru, a Nyeri-based advocate, and a Mr. Peter Nyika, a resident of Mwega in Nyeri. And then there is a codicil of 12th April 2021. At this point, allow me to ask Advocate Kiroko Ndegwa the difference between a will and a codicil.
A will is a legal document that dictates how a person who is deceased intends to distribute his assets upon his death, and also gives directions on what how his debts and assets will be managed upon his death. A codicil, on the other hand, is a subsequent document that is written after the will is has been written. It is merely to make minor changes to the original document, such as to appoint new executors of the will, or to make some revocation without necessarily having to write the original will and a new will. And it is merely for minor changes to the original will.
Having known that, the said codicil of the late Stephen Kinini Wangondo was drafted and signed on the 12th of April 2021. Court records show that it was witnessed by Elijah Wangondo and Solomon Mahugu. Solomon has been named as the father of Advocate Joseph Mahugu Mbarire, the advocate who drafted the will and the codicil. The two documents are contested. The contest is based on several issues tabled before the Justice Kizito Magare Court. The codicil is dated and signed on the same day, that is the 12th of April 2021. Elijah, who signed the document, says he was given the codicil to sign on the day it was to be opened at the White Rhino Hotel alongside the will. Elijah has told the court it can invoke any verification methods available, and it will reach the conclusion that he was never in prison on that day when the alleged codicil was signed. Apart from Elijah's testimony, part of the materials being relied on as evidence before the court is an affidavit filed by Advocate Joseph Mahugu Mbarire himself in 2021. This affidavit was filed during the criminal proceedings where Joseph Mahugu Mbarire represented the late Stephen Wangondo. The advocate had told the court that he was unable to access his client in prison during that period of time. In his own words, "In the course of my duty as an advocate, I am called upon to interact with my client as and when it is necessary. That I have previously and continue to experience difficulty in reaching my client, Stephen Wangondo, whilst in prison. That the reason being cited by the good officers is the aforementioned legal notices commonly referred to as curfew orders." that the very reasons being cited at the prison have been considered by the High Court, and the court in its wisdom has ordered that advocates are essential service providers. End of quote. You would recall that this was during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, and curfew orders had been imposed on almost everyone, including advocates intending to visit prisons. The two brothers say that Mahugu Mbarire's affidavit then becomes an estoppel by record, and that he cannot change the circumstances and facts of that affidavit, since the court in Nyeri had relied on it in releasing Stephen Wangondu from prison.
The advocate says that he went to prison to have my dad actually execute the codicil. On one hand, he's able to access the prison, and on the other hand, he has sworn an affidavit that he's not been able to access prison. So how does this happen? Yeah, how does it? On one hand, you are swearing that you've not been able to access a prison, and on the other hand, we are finding a document. I don't know. It really needs to be explained.
The two brothers further say that Mahugu Mbarire, his father Solomon Mahugu, and his other children have all captured the family and colonized it.
Well, whoever has brought us this far as a family is a genius of a kind, because he made sure that Warrior and the brother, and we say it is them versus us. We were divided. I don't know, he was a genius because he was able to prove to the other family that these are your competitors. They also have tried to bring that competition on our side. We know there has been division of a kind, but the reason why they have tried to divide us is so that when we are divided, they can easily now come in. And probably, I'm sure they told the other family that Mori and the brother, they have been with the father now, and the father now, you have a case with him, so that is them versus you. Whichever method they used, they have done what they did so that now they take advantage of the situation, the divide and rule. They have divided us so that they can also come in, and they have been rewarded for whatever game they are playing. They are playing the game, and they are the ones who are being rewarded.
Elijah and Moria argue that Advocate Mahugu Mbarire and his father Solomon Mahugu have split the family of the late Stephen Wangondu into two. They have drawn battle lines with the intention of disinheriting all sides of the family. And then there is the issue of properties being handed over to Mahugu Mbarire, the advocate, his father Solomon Mahugu, and the advocate's brother James Morage in the said codicil and will. Elijah and Moria have taken issue with the properties which Advocate Mahugu Mbarire claims were given to him to constitute payment of fees to an advocate in kind by Stephen Wangondu. These properties include a land in Gatarakwa, another land in Muyogo, a 8.3-acre parcel of land in Gatarakwa, a motor vehicle registration number KAG 923V, and motor vehicle registration number KAX 100Y, and some 20 million plus 30% legal fees. The family wants the court to see that Mahugu Mbarire has not attached an itemized bill of costs describing the services which were rendered to the late Stephen Wangondu to warrant him being given the 6 properties. The family in Nyeri says
that the alleged codicil of the late Stephen Wangondu reads like a suicide note. They argue there is no provision for Mahugu Mbarire to be paid his legal fees unless and in the event of Stephen Wangondu's death. In short, they say, if Stephen Wangondu does not die, then Mahugu Mbarire would not be paid. Advocate Mahugu Mbarire has instead told the court in paragraph 82 of his affidavit that Stephen Wangondu was paying him in kind for the services rendered because, in his own words, Wangondu was doing bad financially. Elijah, in a rejoinder, is asking the court to wonder with him how a person with a vast wealth, as the will and codicil indicates, could be doing bad financially.
I do not see anything wrong with a lawyer getting a benefit from a will. I do not know, honestly, I do not know the arrangements that this lawyer and his client had, but that evidence alone doesn't raise anything untoward. Yeah. One would say that it raises what in probate law we call suspicious circumstances. Suspicious circumstances being where someone, perhaps if I can give by way of an example, someone was caring for a sickly person. They were not related in any way. And after they pass away, a vast majority of the estate goes to that carer, to the exclusion of bona fide family members. That is what we call in no suspicious circumstances. But that alone is not enough for you to invalidate a will. If maybe another beneficiary would want to come and say, no, something wrong had happened here, you'll need to show that this will was not valid. These were not the wishes of the deceased.
The family says that there are several suspicious circumstances in the will and the codicil filed and contested in court. The brothers want the court to see the peculiar circumstances under which Mahugu Mbarire's brother James Murage is inheriting from their father a land registration number Nyeri Mwega 4267 and another parcel of land Nyeri Mwega 4271. Also inherited by James Murage is a tractor of registration number KTCA 2738B. And then there is the argument of his first wife, Beatrice Moria. The will and the codicil, they say, does not give anything to the woman who was staying with Stephen Wangondu all these years. Instead, the documents say that his second wife, Scholastica Washuka, who has been separated from him for 13 years, should take over the matrimonial house in Wendiga, including all the animals therein, and thus rendering Beatrice, his first wife, homeless. The two brothers are telling the court to see that this cannot be the actions of the same man who asked a herbalist to treat the wife. This could not have come from a man who asked his second-born son, David Moria, to return home and take care of his mother. That this cannot be the actions of a man who took a personal cover for the aging wife suffering from old age diseases. Wangondu's signature on the documents remains another big issue. It is contested big time. Those contesting his will and codicil are telling the court two things: that Wangondu had no capacity to draw the will as he had developed dementia in early 2020. They further allege that the signature is fake, as it appears to be placed on the documents with clinical precision. And that was the reason why the will and the codicil was submitted to the DCI's Forensics Examinations Unit. But a document examination at the DCI headquarters has not yielded much as yet.
The last time Murder Tapes checked, Head of Document Examination at the DCI headquarters, Superintendent of Police Geoffrey Chania, had written a memo to the Economic Crimes Unit head Mike Moya, partly saying, on 11th of May 2022, the documents marked as the will of Stephen Kinini Wangondu, dated the 5th of October 2020, and a codicil of Stephen Kinini Wangondu, dated the 12th of April 2021. All photocopies and listed as the questioned documents were submitted to this office. That is the Forensics Document Examinations Office. That earlier, on the 10th of May 2022, the same set of documents had been submitted originating from Nyeri Central Police Station. Geoffrey Chania proceeds to say, the purpose of this memo is to appeal through your good office the original will and codicil to be availed for a consolidated and conclusive analysis of the same. This will also restrain further and future resubmission of the same copies for forensic analysis. End of quote. Essentially, Superintendent of Police Mr. Geoffrey Chania was telling the DCI Economics Crimes Unit that the two documents appeared to be of great interest and that he had received two sets of photocopies of which he needed the original documents to deliver a conclusive answer. Now, we do not know if the original document was ever submitted to the DCI Forensics Unit or whether it actually exists.
None of us has cited the original document that was executed. Yeah. Be it the codicil or the will. We've not cited the original documents. So even what we are using to the DCI at Nyeri were just copies. Just photocopies of the will and the codicil. Those are the ones that we presented to the DCI in Nyeri to be subjected for signature verification.
But the battle in the Nyeri court is not just about Stephen Wangondu's legacy. It is also a battle about the rule of law. The argument is that a confirmation of grant has not been issued, yet some of the beneficiaries of the contested will and codicil have already taken over the late Wangondu's properties. Advocate Mahugu Mbarire has been accused of excising some tens of acres to himself. He is also accused of taking over Wangondu's Range Rover, which he denies, telling the court in a lengthy affidavit that the vehicle was given to him way back in 2020. On the other hand, this business premise, previously known as SK Wangondu, has since been renamed to PK Distributors. The claim is Paul Kuria, the man who secured bond for Wangondu, has taken it over and is currently operating the business.
If it is contentious probate, as a matter of fact, even if it is not contentious probate, even if these people are not in contention, you ordinarily are supposed to wait for confirmation of the grant, so that the court can say that we've looked at this will and the beneficiaries can now confer benefit based on the contents of this will. Yeah? I can give you an analogy with intestate succession where someone dies without a will. If you're a beneficiary, if say you have a parent and you're the only son left and your father has property, you cannot start dealing in that property until the court gives the okay that we've now confirmed this grant. Now you can have the process of transmission. Transmission being transmitting the property from the name of the deceased into the name of the administrator, from the name of the administrator to the name of the beneficiary. So similarly, even for wills, remember this property, unless it had been transferred during the lifetime of the deceased, then you essentially are supposed to wait because you have no capacity. You may be doing what we refer to as intermeddling, yeah, because if it's this laptop or if it's a motor vehicle, for instance, it's still in the name of the deceased, much as there is a will. So we have to wait for the motions of the court.
The latest is the question of Stephen Wangondu's money. We have learned that on Monday, 25th of August 2025, the family Nyeri has moved to the DCI Nyeri under OB number 85, seeking that the DCI retrieves Stephen Wangondu's M-Pesa statement. In a separate notice to their advocate, they allege that after Stephen Wangondu died, Joseph Mahugumbarire asked for the SIM card plate that had his PUK number and might have unlocked that phone. They say their father received business proceeds through his phone and now suspect that advocate Mahugumbarire may have emptied the account in case it had money. The family is moving on grounds that their father's advocate, Joseph Mahugumbarire, is dishonest and cunning. With that, the two brothers are moving the court to subpoena mobile network provider Safaricom and compel the Wayakiwe-based telco to provide location details of advocate Mahugumbarire, his father Solomon Mahugu, Elijah Wangondu himself, and all other witnesses of the will and codicil in an attempt to smoke out what they call a fraudulent creation that is meant to rewrite Stephen Wangondu's final words. Murder Tapes has further listened to several call recordings involving advocate Mahugumbarire and Elijah and his father, and several people, including their uncles and stepmothers. But what Murder Tapes is interested in, yet we do not understand, is this call between Elijah and Mahugumbarire the advocate. In the call, the advocate, while requesting for money from the family, alleges that he could help compromise the system to allow the release of Stephen Wangondu on bail.
I'm in the city, yeah?
Yes.
There are some things I'm following up. I've just met with Professor Tom Ogienda.
Tom Ogienda,
Senior counsel.
Senior counsel.
Yeah. I've told him the situation we are in.
Yes.
And he is aware about it.
Yes.
And he is charging us 2 million shillings.
Yes.
Some on Monday.
Yes.
And we deliberate on everything. And so that in readiness for Tuesday, we apply for bond bail. And then after that, we also apply for the file to be removed there and put in a
oh, that's okay. Yes.
So I need your word on this and need to know what to tell you.
It is okay. Me, I'm finding it is okay. So what will he require on...
he just needs the fees.
It's 2 million.
Yeah.
Any way to a down payment as we progress?
I've done another matter with him. I was defending our school. And he had asked a down payment for 1 million. So I think a down payment for 1 million, we are good to go. Yeah. And he has called the other guy, the DPP. So I don't know how they are going to talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least now we know we have 500. Let's look for the other 500, yeah?
Yeah.
Since Muse had agreed, me, I would not have an objection, but at the moment, at least what I can raise is 200.
Yeah.
As a 300. After we know now, we said from the money that we are getting from Muse's business is to be used for that.
For this purpose,
we had actually agreed.
Yeah.
So I think...
yeah.
I think then we can settle on that. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think we do everything we can because the moment he is out,
yes,
it is done.
Yes, it is done.
It's more beneficial to everyone when he is out.
I agree totally. I agree, Kabisa.
Because to pure point, there are very many things they're able to control.
It is true.
But pia pale,
it is true. So maybe we can agree kwanza tumpatie your 500.
Yeah.
As we look for
for the other monies, but we will also assure him that we'll get him all the other monies.
Yeah. Tujaribu what we can. At least ndio nisimpe.
Yeah, it is true.
He is my good friend. That's why I've gone for him. I had thought of Muite, but Muite is expensive.
Yes.
It's very expensive. It becomes a bit problematic.
Yes. It is true.
Yeah. Probably last time before the year in case you are shule nakwambia I had gone for Muite and he asked me subject matter value. Namwambia no. I don't want to take anything where I'll charge less than 10-15 million.
Yeah, that one is very expensive.
See, that is outrageous.
Yes, it's outrageous.
So, and this year, that 2 million is for the bail application only.
Yes.
It is for the hearing of the bill. He has assured me he will do what needs to be done. So I think he is our safest bet right now.
What's a tumtumie?
Because there is also, I think there is some form of underhandedness that is being used by our guys from the other end. And I don't know how far they have gone. I don't know how far they have gone, and it is not good to underestimate them.
It is true.
Yeah.
I agree. It is not good to underestimate them. Yeah, I agree. It is not good. It's not good even to take chances.
Yeah.
So me, I'm happy with the way you have handled it. I think we are on the right track.
Okay. This thing, I think, other than the DPC, whom they will probably talk, because he has told him on loudspeaker he didn't speak. I want it to come as a surprise to those guys. Because they will be waiting for me only.
Yes.
Then I want us to be like, so far we are two.
Yes.
I wish our budget was proper so that we get a lady lawyer from Nyeri. You know Lusimoi?
Lusimoi, I know her.
Yeah, that is another person I was going to bring on board in this one. So that the judge does not think the men will think we don't think women are worth
it's true.
This war in Akwanga fought from many fronts.
Yes.
So, but I will contact her. See what she can say.
I think she's a good lady. There's a time I had a small matter, but she assisted. She's a good lady.
After me, I've done some things with her. That's why I'm recommending her.
Alafu anaka very professional.
She is very professional, and also having someone in the grassroots.
It's true.
It is worse that the audio recording is premised on bribing a sitting judge when bail and bond is a right of every suspect. And then there is this phone call in possession of the Murder Tapes team. In the call, Wangondu is speaking while detained. He tells the son that most of his properties are registered in the name of their stepmother, Scholastica Washuka, because of the health condition of his first wife, Beatrice.
Other than Orea Dicret, my two motor, my two, but better condition yake, that they get to me there. Ekeo Maudu me.
And go.
Maudu Maike. A property Shakwani. Shiri setona maitugu shomoni to ne dona amurere tio gwa daki wa mutiri yake
nego
ko kinya ko wa isio na daki wa ne ciana ciake to ne ateketo no ni dike korwo ni ari ya mejori atikeka to ni ciakwa na dike muigana ya ira muri nyothe kana uria gwenda kuhete muhe but in the meantime uria mwekaga no ko enjoy your views.
Yes.
No na chip ne yakwa.
It's true.
Iti go kore.
Ne go kore.
Elijah and Moria want the court to see that this is not the language of a man who had a will. By dint of this phone call, and the first one between Elijah and his father Wangondu, the two Gazette notices that contradict themselves if he died intestate or testate, and the controversial circumstances of the beneficiaries list. The family down in Nyeri believes their father did not have a will, and that what is presented before the court is a work of fiction. The biggest test for the Kizito Magare court in Nyeri is to establish whether the will was a work of fiction, especially given the suspicious nature of beneficiaries, or if Stephen Wangondu's first family is being unreasonably greedy and selfish. The death of Daniel Mwangi Wangondu was only the beginning of this family's ordeal. His father, Stephen, died before he could ever clear his name. And today, the questions around his passing remain unanswered, uninvestigated, unresolved. But the story lives on inside the Nyeri courtroom, where a contested will and codicil have opened yet another wound. A family already torn apart by suspicion and loss is now divided by inheritance. It is a succession case that is both emotive and weighty, not just about land, wealth, or power, but about truth, legacy, and the shadow of a name that may never be free of doubt. Thanks for watching. I'm Brian Obuya. Good evening.